Welcome back to another episode of 5 Questions with Frank. And today I have Ahmad Imam with me. He's a director at Metropole Property Strategists out of Sydney, Australia. And he is a highly skilled wealth strategist, a passionate property investor, and he has personally mentored over 300 clients to create real and long-term wealth strategy through property. Ahmad, it's great to have you on the show. I've heard you on Michael Yardy's podcast. I've read some of your articles, your blog posts, and of course, I've consumed a ton of your content on LinkedIn, where you have a massive following of over 60,000 connections. And you've recently had one of your videos go viral where you created the most epic video in LinkedIn history. So pleasure to have you here. I'm so glad you took some time out of your day to not only for me, but also for the audience. So thanks for being here.
The pleasure is all mine. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. So before we get into the Q&A, I just wanted to give us a glimpse into a day in the life. So who you are and what makes you tick.
Perfect. Well, I think the best place to start is that I'm a family man at my core. So I've got 2 beautiful daughters. I have a 16-year-old stepdaughter. And I have a 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old daughter as well. I'm in a house full of women, which keeps me very, very humble and honest. I love property. I love talking property. So I am a property investment strategist. And I'm fortunate in a respect that I get to talk about property all day.
Awesome. All right. So first question, so we get into it, is how did you get started in the real estate property investment industry?
So my foundation is really sales. So I've been in sales and sales management now for the last 10 to 15 years in a small business setting, in a corporate setting. I got to the stage where I got sick of the corporate world and the politics and things that come with it. And I decided to follow one of my passions, which was property. At that stage, I'd been investing for about 10 years. Right now, I've been investing for more than 16 years. It's something I love talking about, and I thought if I can get paid for it, that would be amazing. And so I went on a path to try and find out how I can get started. And I started off as a property strategist and built my way up to now being the director of a property consultancy based in Sydney.
Awesome. All right. So what advice would you give someone thinking about starting a career in the real estate property investment industry?
So real estate is very broad. I mean, you say real estate, I probably say property here in Australia. It's more or less the same thing. There are many different paths to being involved in real estate. So for example, you can focus on being a selling agent, someone that represents the seller, a traditional real estate agent. You can focus on being a buyer's agent, which is the opposite of a real estate agent. So a buyer's agent is someone that actually represents the buyer and acts in the best interest of the buyer. You can choose to be a property manager. You can choose to conduct property research. You can choose to be a property strategist, which is more down the path that I went down. Speaking to people about how to grow their asset base, how to build their portfolios, what to buy, where to buy, in conjunction with all those other areas as well. So I would say focus on what parts of property that inspires you the most, and look at how to start getting down that path, whether it's reaching out to the right mentors and getting more involved within that space.
Awesome. Great advice. So if I was to ask you, what is the greatest thing about the industry, what would you say that is?
I'd probably say the greatest thing and the funniest thing is that every single person has an opinion about real estate. Everybody has their opinion about property. So you can go to a barbecue and all of a sudden you'll come across 2 or 3 experts. It could be your uncle, it could be your cousins, it could be some friends. People love talking property, and it's become a part of our overall lives. I mean, we all live in homes, whether we own them or we rent them. So it's something that we just like to discuss. So myself, I love talking about how to create a level of financial independence through property, using property as that vehicle. And it really inspires me to see the results in people over the long term. But it is very much a long-term game as opposed to a get-rich-quick scheme.
Got it. Yeah, the journey. So with that, on the flip side, what is one thing about the industry that you would change?
One thing about this industry I would change is that it can be an unethical space. Whether it's on the real estate side or the buyer's agency side, Unfortunately, there are a lot of people behaving unethically. And the reason is in real estate, in property, in development, there's a lot of money to be made. And greed starts to kick in, and where greed starts to kick in, unfortunately, unethical behavior can start to occur. So what we've seen in Australia, for example, is a rise of companies that sell off the plan properties or house and land packages. And what they do is they promise people the world with some amazing marketing and a lot of get rich quick schemes and buying 10 properties in 10 years and selling people the dream. And unfortunately, it doesn't mean a thing unless you can actually buy a property that has great levels of growth, that actually outperforms the averages, that actually helps them create wealth over the long term. So I've seen a lot of people get burned, and that's something that's yeah, I wouldn't like to see going forward.
Awesome. Great. And then, so this is a point where a question that I love to ask, a chance to give you, give the audience a peek into where you feel the industry might go, but where do you think the industry will be in the next, 5 years or so? What do you predict?
Just going off the last point, I'm amazed that property or real estate in Australia, at least, is not a regulated industry. Right, so you'll have accountants, financial planners, people involved in banking. All those industries are highly regulated. Anything that involves giving advice to people, especially advice relating to finance or money, is highly regulated by a number of regulators. So you can't say the wrong thing, you can't give the wrong advice. Property, for some strange reason, is not yet regulated. However, it's the largest transaction by far that anybody will ever make. So what I would like to think is going to happen, and where I feel the direction is headed in Australia at least, is that this industry will become regulated, that people that do talk about property and give property advice will have to work within some limitations and make sure that obviously the advice is ethical and it's in the best interest of their client.
Awesome. Well, that was great. I appreciate it. So just for the audience, I'm sure they might have some questions that they can drop below. If they have any questions for you, feel free. But where can they find you? So if someone's looking to find you, they want to learn more, they just want to follow you or read some of your content, where can you be found at?
You can reach me via LinkedIn message. Please feel free to shoot me through a message and I'll come back to you. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about the business, you can find us at metropole.com.au. Or if you're based in Australia, you can contact us on 1300 Metropole.
Awesome. All right. So thanks so much for being on. Again, to the audience, if there's any questions, if you have anything you'd like to know, drop them in the comments and we will get to them. So appreciate you being on. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thank you, Frank.